All right, Real Media Observer Dave here. Also, you may know me as the Real Music Observer over on the other platform. Thanks for tuning in and finding this channel. I don't do enough self-promotion, but thanks to some recent videos with researcher James Roguski, and again, I think I'm the only person in media who says his name the correct way. So James and I were supposed to do a video together about any new developments coming from the World Hypnosis Organization. We haven't really gotten anything too important to share, so we did a comedic video about the new phenomenon known as the moneypox, and you can look that up over on Rockfin, Rumble, and also on Odyssey. It should be on all three of those platforms. A little too spicy for the folks over here at YouTube. I did have a couple of videos removed from weeks or months ago. Just, hey, we're taking down your video. Like, okay, great to hear. I don't think I got any strikes or warnings or anything, which is kind of a new thing. So I think their main concern, this is my theory on this, right, is in some cases they'll pull down your videos, but they want maybe the revenue that's coming in from your other videos. So this might be their new way of compromise going forward. I don't know. I don't know. So we'll see what they do with this video, because the title of this video is Putin is Winning. Putin is winning. And the West and the Western media has lost their collective minds on so many issues, right? Of course, we have the school shooting, which was an incredibly tragic event. And, if I say thoughts and prayers, people are going to say, well, we need more than thoughts. All I can offer is my prayers for these families and for a solution to the problem that doesn't involve American citizens losing their right to protect themselves. Okay, that's where I stand on this. I am a firm supporter of the Second Amendment. I'm also a firm supporter of the First Amendment, and you need both of those, 1 and 2, in order to counter a rogue government which is out of control. Now, speaking of governments that are out of control, that would be ours. We have been sending billions of dollars to a bleep hole country, okay, which is Ukraine. Now, not all of Ukraine is a bleep hole country, and there are pockets in that country of very respectable places and very decent people, mostly in the eastern part of that country, where for a number of years, they have been under attack from the western part of the country, basically the Kiev area. I like to say Kiev and not Kyiv. I can't stand people who say Kyiv. I don't know why, but I've always pronounced it Kiev. And all of a sudden now it's Kyiv, maybe because, we've got a new crop of journalists that haven't been listening to the older crop that probably knew how to pronounce it properly. Although there probably are 2 pronunciations, right? And you pick the one that you like the most. Well, in any event, all of that has been happening for a number of years, and the media has failed to cover it. They've failed to mention why Russia would just be this unprovoked, angry country, right? This whole business of NATO surrounding Russia, Russia basically saying, look, they're not joining NATO. Now, it's funny because nobody is offering Ukraine to join NATO at this point, I think, because they're super damaged goods and they know they're not going to really help NATO. Whereas Finland and Sweden would be a big addition to NATO and an unfortunate addition to NATO. But what a lot of people seem to be forgetting is what is actually happening on the ground. And Russia is winning. Putin is winning. Russia is winning. And Russia is winning in other ways as well. They said, look, don't put sanctions on us. These countries need us, right? They need our oil. They need our wheat. The world economy is in a spiral. And the reason it's in a spiral is, number one, the United States has printed too much money. And economic experts who aren't in the mainstream media, who don't think, for instance, that you can print your way out of a crisis, or that the stimulus money just comes out of nowhere, right? It just comes out of nowhere, and we give it to all of these failing institutions within our government and failing cities and failing politicians as basically a payoff. Hey, just keep towing the line on this globalism stuff and you'll be taken care of. Your people will be all set, which is a bunch of crap, because the bureaucrats, the people in charge, keep most of the money. And they'll say, oh, we're giving $200,000 to a food insecurity program. And that sounds like a lot of money until you think of how much it costs one family to eat for an entire year right now. It's ridiculous. So I want to focus on some of the things that Putin is winning on, and it's very, very obvious. Number one, he's winning the war in Ukraine. He's winning. All of these places that were kind of like the last stand, you know, I'm getting reports. I'm part of this group on Telegram called the Intel Republic. It's really good. I mean, they update constantly. I think I got the tip from Scott Ritter. And Scott Ritter, by the way, one of the few patriots left doing incredible commentary. In fact, Scott, if you get wind of this video, reach out to me. I'd love to have you as a guest on here to discuss what I'm saying here, basically that Vladimir Putin is winning, and that it appears that the entire globe is sacrificing itself economically, spiritually, in so many ways, right? And there are some similarities, by the way, between what's happening in three countries, right? China, India, and Russia. Now, I'm not a China fan, just so you know. I'm not sitting here going, yeah, I'm glad China is threatening Taiwan. No, I think China is threatening Taiwan because who's going to keep China in check right now? And Russia has said, look, we're going to partner with China. Now, okay, I'm not too fond of that, but you've driven everybody into the arms of the ones who agree with their own ability to self-determine, to just say, hey, you know, and that might include Brazil, by the way, because Brazil is giving everybody the middle finger for the most part. Their president is not going to join any World Hypnosis Organization treaty, which I think is fantastic. And it shows that there are certain countries that don't want any part of this so-called New World Order. Here's the punchline, though, to the New World Order. Russia on their own has created a New World Order, and it's not the kind that they're debating up in Davos, right? This is Russia saying, you know what? We're better off without McDonald's. We're better off without the corruption of the West. And they're talking too about cultural values. I mean, we can't even protect women's sports here in the United States of America. We can't protect and have women, biological women, competing in women's sports. We can't do that. I know there are some governors, I know they just had to override the quote unquote Republican governor in Indiana. The state legislature just did that and said, no, we're not going to have this. We're going to protect women's sports. I don't know what the motivation is anymore other than money. I don't understand it. But this plays into the culture war, which is global. Russia, China, and India. There they are again, right? China, okay, they're totalitarian. They're communists. They're all of these things. I don't like that. But here's the thing. They're not into putting up with any of this cultural rot and decay. Now, do I like the way they go about enforcing their rules? Absolutely not. and they lock people down and they take draconian measures. By the way, Russia didn't do that to their population. Russia figured out how to solve their own problem when it came to what my shirt is kind of talking about here. They figured it out. Okay. And India did too. And China has a different way of figuring it out, and I don't agree with it. But then there are other countries like in Africa that have figured it out. So it's weird because all of those countries that have kind of done things on their own and gotten away from NATO and gotten away from all of these organizations, the World Health Organization, right? They are far better off and further down the road. Whereas the countries that have walked in lockstep with these edicts, we'll call them, they're in rough shape. They're in tough shape, and they really don't care about their own sovereignty. And America, look, you can think, land of the free, home of the brave. That's not it anymore. That's just not it. We are now basically one continent with South America and Mexico. You just look at the map behind me and think of all of that land. Okay, it's just one big land mass, a couple of really narrow places that you can go from the southern tip of South America all the way to Canada, and it doesn't really matter anymore. The sovereignty of this hemisphere is completely out the window, and other countries like China, Russia, and India aren't really going to put up with it. Again, we have Brazil in South America, which is an outlier. And we've got countries in Africa that are also bucking the trend. So let me talk a little bit more about where Putin is winning. And it's pretty simple, right? Putin is winning militarily. Putin is winning economically. Now, there's an article here about how the sanctions, right? Remember those sanctions? Oh, we're going to sanction Russia into oblivion, right? And the media, the news media cheering, and some in the news media wanting a military solution. Was it Dan Crenshaw, the one-eyed Jack, right? Running around saying, oh no, I think we need to have a hot war. I think we need a kinetic war. I think Lindsey Graham and see, Republicans and Democrats, when they start agreeing on foreign policy, that's a big problem. That's epically bad. And I think at a certain point, people need to wake up to the idea that once these politicians start agreeing with one another, then you need to really start paying attention to what's happening. And look, it could be where, hey, in the old days, there was cooperation. Now it's more to do with conspiring against the people that put you in office. I don't know how these people keep getting elected. I do have a theory as to how they keep getting elected, but you can't talk about that here on YouTube. So anyway, anti-Russia sanctions seem to have boomeranged. This comes from an illegal news source. That's all I'm going to say. They seem to have boomeranged on those who implemented them, and developed countries haven't seen such high levels of inflation in decades. And Putin has made a lot of statements on this. He's basically saying, you bit your nose off to spite your face, and now, all the other cliches, the chickens have come home to roost, right? That's what's happening here. Commenting on the West's freeze of hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Russian assets abroad. Think of that. Hundreds of billions of dollars of Russian assets are currently frozen. Putin warned that such theft cannot lead to anything good in the long run. On the matter of foreign companies' mass exodus from Russia over its special military operation in Ukraine. By the way, that's what Russia calls this. In case you haven't heard that term, which of course I hear it every day because I watch certain things that I'm not supposed to. Yeah, I'm doing that every day pretty much. So Russia calls this a special military operation. They don't call it a war. They don't call it an endless war. Although, when America goes into these countries, we technically don't call it an endless war, but then it is. And so it's more about the definition of what a special military operation is. And you know what? To Russia's credit, they gave everybody the blueprint. This is what we're going to do. We're going to denazify, and we're going to take out some military targets, and we're going to free the people from the Donbass region. That's what we're doing. And they're still doing it. And according to my source, Intel Republic, which is a really good place to go on Telegram, it is so well underway and almost at a conclusion. I mean, people are surrendering left and right. You're seeing the remnant of the battle, which is basically the Russian soldiers show up and the other guys either surrender or run and hide somewhere or try to escape. Now, there are some pretty prideful people in this Azov battalion and the affiliated military units, because there are other units with different names that behave the same way and have the same value system. We're seeing a lot of them, that are trying to fight to the end because of their pride, and they're not going to get beat by the Russians and so forth. But the problem with that, right, is that Russia is going to, target them, and in a way that will just spell the end of their lives, because this is what's happening all over the place. This isn't like, okay, we tried to play nice. You guys are all hiding in a factory, hiding in a warehouse. Well, we know where you are. Come out, surrender. Nope, we're not surrendering because we hate Russia. Okay. And again, the media here in this country is making this out to be that Russia is not fighting this war under the, the Geneva rules, or the rules of, you have to have some humanitarian rules in place, even in war, which sounds crazy, but that's the truth. And by the way, you even had Henry Kissinger, who is just probably the world's greatest warmonger, say that, hey, if this goes on for too much longer, this is going to really be very bad for Europe, very bad for the globe. He says 2 months. And he also says that, I don't even know if Russia is looking for this, but he said something like, Ukraine needs to cede territory to Russia, right? So that's Henry Kissinger, when Dick Cheney starts talking like that, or Liz Cheney, then it's, but they won't. They're just, their brains don't work. They don't function properly. So you won't hear that from the Cheney clan, right? So anyway, Putin goes on, and he's almost happy about how foreign companies have left Russia. Putin suggested that their departure may be for the best, with domestic manufacturers taking their place and market share. Many of our partners from Europe have announced that they are leaving. He says, sometimes you look at those who are exiting and think, perhaps, thank goodness, we will fill these niches. Our business, our production has grown and will safely sit on grounds prepared by our partners. So he's basically saying, we're taking over all of the facilities that they left behind, that they built with their money, right? We're taking over, and we can produce our own stuff. See, the United States, this is what has happened. This is why the whole Trump thing, in some ways, was kind of exciting, because, hey, we'd like to bring manufacturing back to the country. We would like to create our own stuff, like energy, right? Like all of this electronic stuff that we rely on the Pacific Rim, really China and Japan and all these places, but America doesn't make stuff. And Russia, I think, is going to start to really ramp up the production of their own stuff, because they realize, hey, we can do this. We've got food. We've got one of the world's greatest wheat supplies, and we've got tons of Russian energy. And nobody in Russia is going to limit the amount of permits that they can get. Now, for you people who are more environmentally concerned, we'll say, Russia, China, and India are all going to definitely create their own energy. India, I think, is doing coal-fired plants, as is China, and Russia is going to pump as much oil as they can. And while everybody else is looking at $6, $7, even possibly $10 per gallon gasoline here in the United States, in Russia, in equivalent currency, that price is around $2 to $2.50. Okay, so that's what we had prior to the Biden takeover. That's what we had. So, and again, this isn't just praising Trump, because Trump was a businessman. I didn't agree with everything Trump said and did. I don't agree with his, lifting up the dude from Pfizer and celebrating, all the money that Pfizer is making, especially knowing what Naomi Wolf and her team have uncovered. It's just crazy. You need to check dailyclout.io. Check that out, and your head might explode. So grab some duct tape before you look at that. Putin goes on, our business, our production has grown and will safely sit on grounds prepared by our partners. Nothing will change. And those who want to bring in some kind of luxury goods, they will be able to do so, but it will be a little more expensive for them. Sounds like a tariff. But these are people who drove around in 600 series Mercedes cars, and they'll continue to do so, I assure you, and will bring them in from anywhere, from whatever country, Putin said. So basically, he's saying he will import goods. There will be a tariff, and if you want nice stuff, you're still going to be able to get it. At the same time, Putin stressed that Moscow has no intention of cutting itself off from the advanced technologies available in developed countries, and assured that it would be impossible for the West to squeeze Russia out and deprive it of access to such tech in today's world. Eurasian Economic Union, Greater Eurasian Partnership. Putin boasted that the Eurasian Economic Union, which includes Russia, Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan as members, has already achieved a 75% rate of settlements in national currencies, and promised that work would continue on interfacing and mutual use of national payment systems and bank cards among the countries. Okay, so full stop. So remember, we were going to isolate Russia because they wouldn't be able to transact with other countries. And Putin just rattled off a whole bunch of countries that he's transacting with. So isolating Russia, not working. Putin, again, winning. He's winning financially. See, they were going to cut the legs out from under Russia and try to isolate them. Instead, what's happened is the West is becoming isolated. Rampant inflation, rampant devaluation of the currency. What was it? The gross domestic product here in the United States fell to negative 1.5% last quarter. I don't think that's ever happened in my lifetime. I didn't know it could go negative, but it went negative, right? And here we are sitting here going, oh, we're going to get Putin. Putin's losing. Now we'll just send more weapons, 40 billion, and we're sending $40 billion to Ukraine. That is the world's biggest money pit. So Putin is winning on multiple levels. He's winning on the currency. He's winning on energy production. He's winning. They're talking about all kinds of food shortages. Everybody is talking about the possibility, especially in the fourth quarter of this year, that you're going to see biblical food shortages and things that you're supposed to have. We're experiencing still even with all the food they supposedly airlifted in from Germany, right? Why Germany? I don't know. But they got baby food from Germany, and they say it'll take care of one state out of 50 states. It'll take care of that state for about a week, depending on the size of the state. I think they said it'll take care of California for a week. California is a big state with lots of people. Okay. So you got 49 more states, and the baby food, and they're dispersing it. And it's probably going to go to all the blue cities, right? Because that's what they'll do. They'll bring it to the blue cities. Here you go. We got you some baby food for a week. Enjoy. And then we're back to square one. Of course, Abbott is supposedly opening up again. That's the baby food plant the FDA shut down. It's funny that the FDA won't shut down other plants that are making other products that are harming people. Nope. But they'll shut down Abbott. And then they realize, uh-oh, we've got a crisis because they didn't reopen it. Now, all of a sudden, hey, they're clear for takeoff now. All those rules, all that bacteria we found or whatever it was, it's not there anymore. What a turnaround, huh? What a miraculous turnaround. It's kind of like, hey, we're not going to pump our own oil, but we will get it from Saudi Arabia because they're our friend, right? We would rather buy from Saudi Arabia because they're so kind to the people in Yemen. Sure. Okay. You know, again, our country is no longer, you know, what it was when I was a kid. I grew up in this country. I thought highly of this country. And I think even in those years where you had like Watergate and we were still kind of able to just face the truth. And, you know, at least, right, Nixon resigned. You know, he didn't hang on. He didn't hire a team of lawyers, right, and dig in for the long haul. He didn't try to rope-a-dope his opponents and say, you know what, come get me. You know, you're going to come get me. You're going to have to. Nope. He said, you got me. You got me. I'm corrupt. I'm going to step down for the good of the country. Nobody will do that anymore. The current president should be doing this, should be stepping down, saying, look, I'm failing on every level. But this is part of a bigger plan because there's no way. Why wouldn't you pick somebody a little smarter, right? If he was in charge of this, he's not in charge of anything. He can barely put a sentence together. So anyway, getting back to Putin here. So look at all the things that Putin is winning on, even technology. He's like, hey, we're still going to have technology in Russia. We've got partners. It's not like we're going to go into the Stone Age here. You know, there are certain things that I guess maybe Russia doesn't do all that well. So they're saying, don't worry. We're going to partner with people who can help us. We're going to have trade. And then in some cases, we're going to have tariffs, right? I mean, and people will want to sell to that market because, again, apparently it's working. All of this stuff that Putin is doing, the ruble, which, again, everybody was laughing because rubles were worth like what? A fraction of a penny, like 1/32 of a cent or something like that. And now, not only is the ruble stable, it's increasing in value all the time. So again, for all those people that think, you know, Russia's on the verge of collapse, Russia is losing. No, the media is starting to pivot a little bit away from this daily, I hope you're wearing your blue and yellow lapel pin. We need to fundraise for you. Really, you need to fundraise for Ukraine. How about you fundraise for the people of Flint, Michigan, right? How about you put the money where it's needed? Fix their water system, for crying out loud. And the farmers in California, make it so they can actually get clean water or just water in general for their crops, right? And there's so many needs, infrastructure problems all over this country. And for some reason, the media has you convinced, the weirdest thing, that the best use of our money is to send it to a country which is getting its ass kicked in a war that could have ended a lot sooner, quite honestly. But I think, and I know this will sound like I'm, you know, just a lackey for Putin, but I think Putin said, okay, let's try to just, you know, do this around the edges and see if they will just commit to the things that we want them to commit to. They didn't. They still refused to negotiate, which is crazy because their country is in ruins. And like Kissinger says, if this goes on for a couple more months, I don't know. Russia may just start to pivot and say, it's us against the world. And we'll partner with China and we'll partner with India. We'd like these countries to leave us alone. We would like for NATO to stop expanding. This deal with Finland and Sweden, that's not good, right? That's just adding fuel to the fire. But apparently there aren't any people who understand foreign policy enough to say, I think this is provoking Russia. This seems to be making things worse. Maybe we should just kind of pump the brakes a little bit and slow this puppy down. But nope, that's not what we're doing. And of course, the Western media walking in perfect synchronicity with not one variation, not one commentator other than Henry Kissinger, who's technically not a media person, but somebody that the media would listen to because he's an expert, right? He's got some intellectual firepower. He just doesn't say a lot of things I agree with. So in any event, people, despite what you're hearing, Putin is winning.